In today's Faith Talk, we are going to tackle the inerrancy and authenticity of the Bible. We have spent our previous talks looking at the fine-tuning of the universe, the staggering mathematical odds that suggest we aren't an accident. But today, I want to look at a different kind of fine-tuning. I want to look at a book that is an absolute statistical impossibility. The Bible is not a single book. It is a library. It consists of 66 different volumes written by more than 40 different authors over a span of 1,500 years. These authors came from 3 different continents and wrote in 3 different languages. They included kings, peasants, doctors, tax collectors, and fishermen. Now, imagine taking 40 people from right here in Ohio today, all from the same town, with the same education, and asking them to write their views on just one controversial topic. You would get 40 different stories. But in this library, written across centuries by people who never met, we find one single, cohesive, and structurally progressive narrative. It is the story of a rescue mission. This story begins with a perfect world and a creator who gave man free will. Why? Because love is not love if it is coerced. But man used that freedom to fail. When man was ejected from the garden, we often view it as a harsh punishment. It was actually an act of supreme mercy. If fallen man had stayed and eaten from the tree of life, he would have been locked in his unrighteousness forever. The exile was God's way of ensuring we didn't become eternally lost. From that moment on, the signal begins. God didn't pivot to a plan B. The Bible tells us the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. The rescue was already in motion. Through Abraham, through the nation of Israel, and ultimately through Jesus, the plan moves toward its climax. Now, many will say, that's a beautiful story, but how do we know the words haven't changed over thousands of years of copying? This is where the math meets the dirt. For centuries, critics argued that the Bible was like a giant game of telephone, that by the time it got to us, the original message was lost. Our oldest Hebrew manuscripts only went back to 900 A.D. But in 1947, in the caves of Qumran, we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. We found copies of the Bible that were 1,000 years older than anything we had before. When scholars compared the two, the result was a statistical miracle. Despite 1,000 years of hand copying, the text was virtually identical. 1,000 years of time could not degrade the information. It proves that the hardware of the Bible has been shielded by a discipline of preservation that defies human entropy. Because we know the text is accurate, we have to deal with the signature of the author. We see this in prophecy. There are over 300 specific prophecies regarding the Messiah. Mathematicians have looked at just 8 of them, simple things like his birthplace and the price of his betrayal. The odds of one man fulfilling just those 8 by chance is 1 in 10 to the 17th power. To visualize that, imagine covering the entire state of Texas in silver dollars 2 feet deep. Mark one coin with an X, stir the pile, blindfold a man, and tell him he has one pick to find that specific coin. That is the statistical coincidence of the Bible. It is an encryption key that could only be written by someone who stands outside of our linear time. We see this signature again in the medical precision of the text. In Psalm 22, King David describes the heart melting like wax and bones out of joint, a perfect medical description of crucifixion.
But David wrote those words nearly 800 years before the Romans even invented crucifixion as a form of execution. How does an author describe a future technology of death that hasn't been conceived yet? Only if the lead editor is looking at the whole timeline at once.
Skeptics often claim the Bible was a collection of myths, but the dirt of the earth tells a different story. For 100 years, critics laughed at the mention of the Hittite Empire, or King David, claiming they were fabrications. Then, the shovel hit the ground. Today, we have the Hittite capital of Hattusa and the House of David stone. We have the Pilate stone, confirming the existence of the man who ordered the crucifixion. Archaeology doesn't create the Bible's truth. It merely catches up to it. Even the science of the ancient world was left in the dust by this text. While other cultures thought the earth was held up by giant animals, the book of Job stated that God hangs the earth on nothing. While modern science only recently mapped the paths of the seas, the Psalms spoke of them thousands of years ago. We live in a moment of history defined by a massive cultural shift. We see the North Star of objective truth being moved. But we are holding a document that is internally impossible, historically vindicated, and scientifically ahead of its time. We exist in the already but not yet. The Lamb has come, that is the already. The kingdom is coming, that is the not yet. If this book has been 100% accurate regarding the past, the math tells us it is 100% trustworthy regarding the future. You are not holding a book of stories. You are holding a record of reality. Trust the math. Trust the history. Trust the author.